Not everyone responds to eggs, or dietary cholesterol in general, the same way. While for most people, eating an egg or two a day doesn't significantly affect blood cholesterol levels, there's an important exception. Individuals with certain genetic conditions, like familial hypercholesterolemia, FH, who are far more sensitive to cholesterol intake and require stricter dietary oversight. Familial hypercholesterolemia is a genetic disorder that affects the body's ability to clear LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, from the blood. People with FH inherit mutations in genes responsible for regulating cholesterol, especially the LDL receptor gene, which helps clear cholesterol from the bloodstream. The result? LDL levels can be dramatically elevated, even from a young age, leading to a significantly increased risk of premature heart disease, sometimes decades earlier than in the general population. Because their cholesterol metabolism is impaired, people with FH tend to accumulate LDL in the blood regardless of diet. But that doesn't mean diet doesn't matter. In fact, for them, every bit counts. Even modest increases in cholesterol intake can push already high levels higher. That's why most clinical guidelines still recommend that individuals with FH follow low saturated fat and low cholesterol diets, and that includes being cautious with foods like eggs, liver, and full-fat dairy. While the average person may get a pass on egg yolks, those with FH may be advised to limit them or avoid them entirely depending on their baseline LDL and treatment goals. That said, dietary cholesterol is just one piece of the puzzle. Saturated fat from butter, processed meats, cheese, and baked goods has a larger impact on LDL cholesterol levels and is a more important target in most cases. Still, because FH patients are at much higher risk of cardiovascular disease, the usual moderation approach to eggs may not be sufficient. For them, it's not just about cholesterol numbers, but managing lifelong risk. There's also some nuance here. FH varies in severity. Heterozygous FH, inheriting one copy of the faulty gene, is more common and less severe than homozygous FH, a rare and serious form that can cause LDL levels to soar into the 300s or 400s. Someone with well-managed heterozygous FH on medication and with otherwise excellent health habits might be able to include the occasional egg, but they should do so under medical supervision. Others may need to be stricter, especially if their LDL remains high despite treatment. Genetics can also play a role even outside of FH. Some people are what researchers call hyperresponders to dietary cholesterol, meaning their LDL rises more than average when they eat cholesterol-rich foods. These individuals don't necessarily have FH, but their genetic makeup makes them more sensitive. However, even in many hyperresponders, the LDL increase is accompanied by a rise in HDL, which may balance out the risk. The problem in FH is that HDL can't save the day. LDL is so high and HDL so overwhelmed that the risk calculus changes. The bottom line? For most people, eggs can be a safe and nutritious part of the diet. But for those with familial hypercholesterolemia, the rules are different. They need personalized guidance, not blanket advice. In their case, an egg a day might not be harmless. It might be another brick on an already heavy load. This is where genetic testing, lipid panels, and working closely with a healthcare provider come in. Because when your genes already put your heart at risk, every dietary choice matters a little more.